Be back in. Hopefully that's not choppy this time, man. Yeah, but these are the teething issues that if I want to do this more regularly, I'm just gonna have to work all this stuff out. Thank you for the patience, man. I'm just checking the last one back. Yeah, I can hear that it was choppy. Yeah, all right. We back. Sounding better so far. Yeah, what I did was because it was choppy, I thought I'll unplug it and plug it. And when I unplugged it and plugged it, it just didn't even like re-recognize it again. It's absolutely insane to me that there is no way in like any other streaming software, I guess Zoom or and stuff like that, you can edit the it's so easy to just change the microphone input. You cannot do that on YouTube for whatever reason. You can't change the microphone input once you've started the thing. It's like fixed. But I'm just glad that it's a bit better. And yeah, thank you guys for being patient and rejoining. But I've lost. That's what I was going to do. I was going to check the live chat because I lost your guys' live chat. How do I view a live chat afterwards? Why isn't that allowing me to view it? Oh man, YouTube Live's a whole different beast, man. I can't. Yeah. Anyway, where were we at? We were talking about sugar. I was going on about food and supplements. Hey. Yeah. Yeah, sugar just seems to be the biggest one. And I'm not like, you can have sugar and whatever, but overall in the long run, like having too much sugar, yeah. And if I was just saying, it's like crack. Like if I have a little bit, I want more. Like, and then I want it the next day. Hello, Sab. Yes, brother. Is that really Sab? It is, hey. Big up, Sab. Yeah. What else was on the agenda for this? Oh yeah, I was going to briefly just chat history of this channel. I wonder if how long people have been here, when people joined, because it started as a second channel 8 years ago, where I was just putting random one-off trains of thought up, and then I like documented my whole fast. I did like a 35-day fast, and this channel like documented it, and I've like privatized a load of those videos. Yo, Kevin. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, Kevin Michael Johnson, man. I remember. I'm glad we got your boa sorted, my friend. Interviewed Wim Hof. That video that was 8 years ago, man. That's crazy. I was with Wim Hof with Ross Edgley 8 years ago. Random one that before Ross swam around Britain, he just asked me if I wanted to go over, spend time with Wim Hof. I was like, yeah, heck yeah. What else? Testing water. Went through a water phase, man. Testing spring water, distilled water. I used my distiller for about 12 years, man. I just recently started to look for springs, and I just found a spring that's 20 minutes away. So once every 6 weeks, I just go to the spring. Look, if you guys don't know, let me put this spring. Findaspring.org, mate. All over the world. Find a spring. Buy some EPA-free plastic or some giant glass jars and go fill it up. Yo, well done. Thanks for the repost, Connor. Ross has done some big swims since. Yeah, he just swam the world's longest swim ever in a river or something, right? Yeah, 500 miles. I just started swimming like 4 weeks ago. Like I'm like, this could be my winter sport, right? It's like doesn't look sexy. Does not going to feed like my injury of wanting to look flashy and whatever. It's like don't really post about it. You just go and swim and you get out of breath and you splash some water. But it's really good. Like it's resistance training. It's pretty hard to injure yourself swimming. Super gentle. You're reaching like the limits of your fingers and your toes are being reached over and over again. It's breath work, harmonizing the breath with the movement. Meditation like that. Worst bit is the chlorine. It makes your hair feel dry. But I've just accepted that. And I also one huge tip for swimming that people just don't know if people do this right. get some flipping short fins and get some aqua gloves and just enjoy feeling like a seal. Like you don't have to and go all natural and swim. Like I like walking barefoot uphill, but I like running downhill in shoes with thick fucking shoes. Like give me a thick hot pair of Hokas to charge down a mountain in and I'll love it, right? But I go up in the barefoot. When I'm swimming, right? Yes, do some lengths with like normal, but then also put some fins on and just feel what it's like to fly through the water like that. It feels so fun and it makes me enjoy it. I'm still getting a workout. In a way, it's like it's more strength training because it's more intensive. What up, Noodle Man? Hey, it's more intensive because it takes more muscle to drive that amount of water with each stroke that you're using. But yeah, I've just been using fins and aqua gloves and just having little fun freestyle sessions, 30, 40 lengths, 3, even up to 4 times a week at the moment. And then along with just been doing loads of kettlebell stuff. I recently David Weck came to the London for the UK for his first time ever, as some of you watch the channel might know. Which was awesome. Got to host him in London and then did a workshop, 3-day workshop with him and Chris Chamberlain, who, if he had a YouTube channel, he would be my number one fitness influencer that I'd watch, but he doesn't have a YouTube channel. But he is my number one fitness coach that I probably respect the most for knowledge, but for actual like practice what you preach, but beyond that, actually demonstrates like he has got the best strength to body weight ratio out of anyone I've ever met. Now, maybe there's an 80 kilo power lifter who can technically lift more, but this guy deadlifted 500 pounds. He might have even done like, did he do 700 on? No, I don't think he did 700 on the bed of nails, but he did over 500 on a bed of nails, like his feet on the bed of nails, like that. Holding, I did 24 kilo kettlebell on that, and that was horrible. He lifted 500 pounds on that, and he's like close to lifting a 400-pound sandbag up to his shoulder. And this guy weighs like 180 pounds or about 80 kilos, lifting like 180 kilos in a sandbag onto his shoulder, which isn't like a barbell that weight is one thing, a sandbag's another thing, and the size that a sandbag has to be to even have that much sand in. And he's like 5'10", I've ever been skydiving, random question, but on the subject of swimming. I have been skydiving once and it just felt like it wasn't real. I felt like I was looking at a giant HD screen. It was in Hawaii. Not that it was even like necessarily really enjoyable. I think it wasn't. I think I'd enjoy it. I think I'd be challenged more by bungee jumping. It would feel more real, like the speed of falling and the depth is a lot closer to the earth. I think that would scare me more, but feel more like of an intense rush, I guess. I'm not really chasing that, but I think skydiving would get really fun if you're doing it on your own, or even one of those skydiving wind rooms. That might be quite fun, just to actually experience like controlling your body. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, bungee jumping, your brain doesn't catch up till you bounce. It makes sense. Any tips on where to start with kettlebells for a beginner? Great question. So I would just play around with like an 8 kilos, and you probably want a 12, and just get really comfortable with the timing of a swing, one-handed swing. Like just do one-handed swings, boom, boom, like kettlebell sport style rather than Pavel hard style. I think is just getting the rhythm. What I like with kettlebell is it feels like a dance. There's a rhythm, there's an ebb and a flow to the weight, and there's the whole body working in unison or in sequence to kind of make that happen. And so that's all I'm loving at the moment. Back on the kettlebells, go to the gym, grab a 12, and I'll just swing, and I'll do hand to hand, and I'll walk with it. There's another really good approach to kettlebell that I don't see anyone other than WEC people talk about, really. Actually, I think Clifton from Functional Kettlebell Training does do that. Actually, those guys are the only other guys I've seen do it. Walk with the kettlebell. Do one swing, swing it up, take a step, swap hands, swing down, swing it up, take a step. Put it through, locomotive principles. Um, and then once you're comfortable swinging, get a clean going and just rock side to side. Swing clean. I'm over on this side. I'm up to this side. Boom, boom, boom. And then you can start to do snatches, right? With the lightweight. Get the punch through, work out the grip, fight with the wrist, get the diagonal angle, like watch tutorials, get a good snatch. And if you just between a clean and a snatch and the swing, like, and walking, or on my Instagram, I just posted a video like 2 days ago of me doing snatches with the kettlebell whilst taking a step up. And just that little addition of the step up adds to the intention of the body. Like, I'm driving and I want to rise everything up, and the hip drives and everything. So it's one thing to snatch on a flat surface, but when you actually step with it, like, there's that whole uplifting happens, which then has carryover to like acceleration if you want that. But like, that's what I like about the kettlebell and the cleans with it. And the same with the landmines. Would definitely recommend you check out some of the videos on landmines. But the landmine clean is this like acceleration from weight on one leg to shifting over to the other leg. That's the same with the rope flow, that infinity pattern, side to side action that you can get with the kettlebell cleans or the snatches with the step up as well. It really just gives you that extra intention, like, is encouraged with it. So with the kettlebell, yeah, 8 or a 10, 8 or a 12, you could get a 10, I guess. And then I do that, and then maybe just some juggling, like maybe get on some grass or be in a gym where they don't mind you dropping kettlebells. And juggling makes it fun as well, because then you get reps in without even like, don't have to count down reps. You don't have to put a timer on. You could do that, but I just like getting a sweat on, playing with different things, trying to come up with different sequences as the weight shifts. Yeah, have a play, man. Definitely want to make some more kettlebell content going forward on this channel. Hi Tim, how's it going? I'm from Leicester. Do you know of any local wild swim spots in the Midlands? Being a man from Derby. Leicester. I don't know Leicester. If you can drive to Derby or like near here, there's Anchor Church, although it's flooded right now. But you can swim in the Trent. There's loads of spots you can swim in the Trent, all the way up the Trent between Burton and Shardlow. There's like so many spots you can find. Like, I literally live on the Trent, so I can swim here. But Anchor Church, which is like really cool cave that a man made 1,500 years ago. A hermit made it, and it's still there today. And it's like a 3-bedroom cave, or like a 3-room cave with like windows and everything. It's crazy, but it's right by the river, and a lot of people go wild swimming there, and you can access it for free, like no bother. It's just when it's flooded, it's hard to get to. But if it's flooded, you can get in the flood if you wanted to do it. Although I don't really recommend. I'm not into like the cold stuff anymore. But if you're into that, you could do it, or you can go Chatsworth House. It's a bit further into the peaks, but people wild swim at Chatsworth House. I think they meet up every weekend. I think people meet up at Chatsworth. Or third and final suggestion is Tamworth. What's the quarry? Dost Hill Quarry. Dosthill. Dost Hill Quarry in Tamworth. You can pay, and it's a massive quarry that, when they were digging into the quarry, they popped a spring at the bottom and it flooded with fresh spring water. And someone owns it, and you can pay like £8, and people go there every day. You can go and just wild swim, and the people do it's like 30-meter deep, so you can't even see the bottom, but you just swim a 400-meter lap of it. So there's a few suggestions for you. I like the concept of these movements, but I also thought WEC had a bit of a CrossFit cult vibe. Yeah. Yeah, I think every fringe biomechanical practice has a bit of a cult vibe, because people join it and they're like, this is the truth, this is the answer. But I think the nuance to WEX and what on the surface they can all look the same, but it's very different in actual practice, and that's why I've stayed with WEC out of all of them. Is it's not as intellectual. A lot of the fringe biomechanical stuff, CrossFit isn't that, but a lot of the like functional patterns and this stuff, very intellectual. And there's definitely a place to understand that side, and there's definitely a place for like, mind muscle connection and precise guidance of the body. But too much of that and not enough freedom and you can get too stuck in the head, and this can obviously all of a self judgments and all these things. That's where they are as well, right? And it can all come with it in this, self depreciating of like, if that's the word, um, like dysfunction and compensation and all this stuff. We can really start to attack ourselves with it. Whereas what WEX stuff is, it just focuses on encouraging the positive movement pattern, like with a tool. So you're not even in your head. Like you obviously have to be in your head to understand the concept of like the dragon roll. That takes some head work. But eventually, once you're out the head and you notice the more relaxed and out of your head you are, the easier it actually happens. Then you can accrue hundreds, thousands of repetitions in a very short space of time that the body then has. And then those patterns are there. And it's because the tool was right and the body's got its own intelligence, and we just put the two together. Like we use the intelligence to set up the parameters and select the tool, understand what we're trying to do, and then it's just down to the tool, and that's the rope, and that's the pulses as well. The pulses highlight something to us, just like I talked about with swimming. When you're swimming and you've got short fins on or you've got your aqua gloves, what's that doing, right? It's showing you, like when you can just, you can put your hand in the water and just go, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." You put on the aqua glove and you go, "Oh wow, if I do that, I've got so much more pull." So then I take the aqua glove off and I know I want to do that now. Whereas before, and it's the same with the rope, it's the same with the pulses. It's highlighting, it's zooming in. Oh, there's this here you can utilize, but we're just befuddled about how to use the body. No one's taught us, haven't developed it. A few people naturally, like the top athletes, do it naturally. They've found it through growing up that if they like punch down, they can change direction quicker or whatever, and they sync their arms and their legs. But the WEC tools allow everyone to access that ability to highlight. If I punch as I change direction or as I jump, there's this jolt. You watch the Maori warriors in slow motion, there's this real like collapse of the center of mass right just before you, and you have to watch it subtly and know what you're looking for. But when you practice it, you can see it. They're not just, it's not using muscle. There's a reason they're like so lean and they can jump so high. They use the mass they have, drop it into the ligaments, the Achilles, and that pings them back up. And that's what the pulses teach us, to drop a center of mass in an instant to load the ligaments and tendons, to utilize them like trampolines rather than just trying to use muscles to move. And without this explosive reaction trained, we just don't really know it's there, and we don't really develop it unless we do it naturally, which some people do, and they end up being the best athletes. Again, you even watching, like I was watching a kangaroo, same thing. They'll boom, and just before they're like loading, there's this like real drop of the weight, and then the bounce again, and then there's like it's like an intentional collapse of the center of gravity into the tendons and ligaments that fire forward. Any exercises for poor ankle mobility? Um, I've I've got pretty poor ankle mobility myself. I think years of doing parkour without any knowledge of biomechanics, like they just tightened up. So I don't know. But ultimately, I've never really been able to improve them, and I've tried a lot of different things, pretty committedly, and never really been able to improve them. I've just accepted that if they're not in pain, like I'm not too like when they're in pain, that's a problem that worth working on. There's a reason. Um, mine have I've had horrendous ankle problems, and now I'm able to run and sprint and pulse and play, and they're okay. Um, as long as I can do that, I don't worry about mobility. Is there a reason? Like, yes, it would be nice to be able to do a deep rest and squat. It's my ankle mobility that limits it. I don't know. I'm just happy that I'm out playing and can play with the things I want to play with, and I just sit in chairs. I still will like sit cross-legged on the floor and things, but I'm just not overly obsessed with chasing it, because the amount of work for the like for very little, and it depends. Some people are able to improve their ankle mobility. Like some people have trained flexibility in that area and made progress. Didn't work for me. Some people don't have that capacity, and there are other factors involved. soul mechanics and all this stuff, which I won't go into in this, but I'll just put it out there. But yeah. Did I do a silent retreat recently? Curious if you have any insight from that. Feel like you mentioned it in the video. I did do a silent retreat um a month, was it 2 months ago? Maybe 6 weeks ago now. Yeah, really cool experience actually. It wasn't a Vipassana. It wasn't 10 days. It wasn't 10 hours a day for 10 days. I'm I've I can easily like, you know, someone who can chase extremes, swing from extreme to extreme, um, and want to push myself really hard. The like Goggins type um, approach, and I just think that's. I'm just realizing and recognizing how unloving that is to myself and to my body and to little Tim, And so I found a silent retreat that was like 5 days, and it was movement every day. It was like about 2 hours of meditation at most each day. But you were silent the whole time, but there was yoga, there was breath work, there was sitting meditation, moving meditation, you could go for walks 3 hours, in the afternoon in the Yorkshire Moors. Um, yeah, and you know what? I came out of it feeling quite spiritually strong, and there was no phones or anything like that, no screens. So out of that, I was like, it really helped reset me. Like the thing is, right? Any choice or addiction we have in our life, there's a root. The root for it is like some emotion that we're avoiding, some pain that we're avoiding that this thing, gives us alleviation from temporarily, but of course not in the long run. So the silent retreat didn't. I knew I'm very much more sensitive now. Like nothing changed permanently on a deep level. But in the short term, I came out of it way more like that break was so good for me. It was so good for me to like remotivate me for life, to not be on my phone for 5 days, to not be thinking about other things. Um, I felt spiritually stronger for like 2, 3, 4 weeks maybe, like, and I was making better choices. And slowly, things creep back in. And then Divine Truth came to the UK, and I went to their talks, and that's the thing is, the whole time at the meditation retreat, the silent retreat, is like this stuff is so much easier than Divine Truth. Like it's so much easier to sit and meditate for an hour than it is to like progress with Divine Truth. But that's the stuff that will change it permanently. Like the silent retreat is great, like temporarily, but it's not maintainable long term to have to meditate for hours every day to maintain that stretch. I want to deal with the root of like children don't need to meditate, but I want to deal with like the root of why I want to make these choices in my day-to-day life, to watch TV for 3 hours straight, in the evening, Rob. What am I running away from? Or to want to overeat, or eat loads of sugary snacks, or whatever it is, eat loads of carbs. Like I can challenge them temporarily and feel some positivity from that, but in the long run, it's a different game. And that's what so much of just mainstream health practices is, just all these like extreme limitations that just aren't sustainable long term, and actually don't really make it fuck all difference really in the long term. Like they don't really heal stuff. They may avoid temporarily, but it doesn't heal anything. It's the soul work that makes the difference. It's the emotional work. It's this really deep, challenging reflection that actually changes anything. And I can't even say that I've done much of it truly. I've come to recognize and see it. Like I'm getting a very clear picture of what's there, um, and I'm much more sensitive when I'm avoiding my pain, and when I've been unloving to someone after the fact, or like even leading, or when I want to be unloving, or like in a conversation, or it's sometimes it's hard to catch it in the moment. Afterwards, I can reflect and be like, "Oh, that what drove me to say that, or why did I, not pick up on that, or I wasn't, or I wanted to just challenge that person there, or whatever it is." But yeah, that's the soul work. That's the harder stuff. But it felt like the Vipassana, or the Vipassana, the silent retreat helped like create space to get into that work better from. It was like a great segue into the Divine Truth talks. Yeah. You'd like to go on a retreat one day. Have I ever been on pilgrimage? If not, would one be in the pipeline? You know what? That's one of the things I haven't done. I really wanted to before, but I really wanted to do it to run away from my life and run away from some emotional stuff. So like my motivation for the pilgrimage was like a running away. But there is part of me that loves like walking and being in nature, and I've thought about not super seriously, but what's the Santiago de Camino one? I actually wanted to watch the film on that. It's been on my list, but I haven't watched it. Um, but I've read Paulo Coelho wrote a book about that walk. I think it was. Was it literally called The Pilgrimage? I think it might have been. um, but yeah, thought about pilgrimage. I haven't done one, but you're right. In terms, cause I've done Vision Quest. For those that don't know, where you sit in one space in nature for 4 days and you don't leave like a 3 meter diameter circle. You just have a tent. You don't even have a tent. You have a sleeping bag and a bivy bag, tarp, and some water. No food, no phone, no books. No, don't speak to anyone for 4 days. I did that last year. This year I did the Vipassana. So each year I try and do one thing like that. That's kind of like just an experiment, challenging myself in one of these fringe spiritual practices. So pilgrimage possibly next year. The other one I was thinking of doing is a darkness retreat. There's like a 6-day darkness retreat, but again, I think 6 days sounds pretty fucking extreme. So they also do a 3-day one. I thought I might just do this the more self-loving choice and do a 3-day retreat, a 3-day darkness retreat. Because it's good to challenge it, but also there's a point when it's just gets a bit much. Yeah. It's like on the Vision Quest. I've told this story in the School of Biomechanics live chat a while ago, but I haven't. I thought about making a video on it at some point, maybe discussing it. But in short, basically, I on the final evening, you stay for the final evening, the third evening. No, was it the fourth evening? Yeah, I think it's the fourth evening, and then on the fifth day, you wake up and you go back. And I was so like miserable and over it, but of course, it's just one more night. Just stay out there for one more night, grind it out. And in my head, I was like I started to recognize like love brought me to the Vision Quest, like trying to develop a relationship with myself, develop a relationship with God. Like that was my intention coming to the Vision Quest. Now it made the switch to like be unloving to just force myself to stay, and it was harder for me to stop the Vision Quest than to just stay. Like I had more like fear about how people would perceive me for quitting the night before it than just grinding it out and just ending with everyone else. And so I just was like, oh, okay. I made the harder choice for myself, and I got to the finish line, and I stopped before the finish line, and I said I don't need to cross this finish line, and I ended it. And I felt so much emotion from that choice that was more self-loving. Like it was interesting. I think a lot of us are hardwired to just push ourselves so hard without much compassion for ourselves and trying to understand why we're making these choices. Do you have an experience with DMT? Yes, I've done DMT once or twice. I've done ayahuasca 3 or 4 times, mushrooms many times. But honestly, like they're like exciting and they're like organic video games or some shit like that, right? And they I don't know. It's so easy to just justify them and think like they open your mind and help you see things that you would never have seen. But you, I don't think you really get any like soul changes from that stuff. Like at a soul level, like no one really changes directly from like I can't really say no one, but like they feel like very monumentous when they happen. But in the long run, people don't really change from those alone. Like if you use that to motivate you to make some change in your life, and but I don't think things really last unless you deal with the emotion for the bad choices in the first place that drove the bad choices in the first place. Um, big up George. Big up. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not. I truthfully, I did mushrooms this year in March, and it felt pretty profound again. But I want to be very careful about promoting that to other people because I don't think you ever need that stuff, and I'm trying to work. Yeah, like Sab said, it, for someone who's like never got no awareness of spirituality at all. Not saying that you didn't, Sab, at all, but some people have no awareness of spirituality, and then they do mushrooms, and they're like, "Holy, what the heck is this whole other realm that exists?" Um, it can blow people like wide open, and a lot of people say it's like one of the top 5 most important experiences of their life. But again, I don't think you need it. I don't think angels in heaven are doing ayahuasca. I don't think children, you wouldn't recommend that stuff to children. Children are like they're on mushrooms all day anyway, you know. Um, like if we're not emotionally traumatized and you're happy, happy people don't really need to do that. So what's, like that's my honestly, yeah, I don't think, and I think we're unhappy because we've got a huge gaping wounds in our souls emotionally from not being allowed to feel or being scared to feel our emotions that have all bottled up inside us, and it's driving most of our lives now. Thoughts on Reikian principles like character armor and body psychotherapy? I've heard of the term, but I don't know at all about it. Character armor and body psychotherapy. I mean, that sounds like the terminology character armor sounds pretty accurate if it's what I think it means. The facade we create to protect the injured child within. Um, yeah, yeah, but I don't want to make this all about. I could go on. I want to talk about this other stuff. What else do I have on? I mean, I do most of my passion outside of biomechanics is all about the afterlife, and I've read about 30 or 40 books on the afterlife. Um, and from all different sources, all different time periods, all different places on Earth. So it paints a pretty clear picture that of like what's to come after death. After death, the second, basically, we have a second birth into the spirit world where we maintain all our memories. We don't get all the answers, and we have a whole life ahead of us. Uh, how do I feel about the rapid advancement of AI? Um, and specifically BCIs like Neuralink. BCI, does the B in BCI stand for brain? Um, brain control something. I don't know. Yeah, man. AIs. So the the man in Divine Truth claims that he's Jesus, not reincarnated, but just born. I don't know how he puts it. He's had a life for 2,000 years and then chosen to come back. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. He talked about AI, and I think his take on it is the best take on it. So he said any software like AI cannot be developed to be greater in harmony with love, right? This is paraphrasing now, but then the soul condition of the person who developed it. So every piece of software, all AI, is all dependent on the condition of love, of understanding of love of the person or the engineers who develop that software, like collectively or individually. So, as an example, I've been thinking about this. Look at Twitter. That is an expression, a manifestation of Elon Musk's soul condition, right? Someone who's very comfortable with being angry and projecting anger and maximizing numbers and digits and algorithms and things to maximize views and attention. And this, I'm not an Elon Musk hater. There's some things about free speech that I completely agree with, but the way that it's what, like things like that, what he is in control of the developers. to some degree and helps them develop it. So there's his effect, then there's the developers that work for him that he chooses to hire that have a similar. Well, it's like attracts like effect. So it's the same with AI. Anyone that's developing AI, if they're like, how I don't even know any, like comfortable cheating on their wife, or they're okay with people beating each other's head in, or they're okay with Israel killing people in Palestine or whatever it is, then that's going to be reflected in at some level in the way they write the software. And the people that are probably more understanding or developed in love than them probably aren't the ones that are out there getting all the funding or getting the mainstream approach. So it's like AI is only going to reflect the perspectives and opinions and beliefs to some degree of the people that develop it. If those guys aren't really highly developed on how we can be loving, build a more loving society, then it's not going to help serve society in that direction at all. Like that's the literal capacity of it is going to be. BCI means brain computer interface. Yeah, yeah, and then that's not to mention like the potential secret darker intentions that really go on behind the scenes of who Elon Musk might really be, or what Mars might really mean. You know, people talk about going to Mars. I just think that doesn't even necessarily mean a planet. It could just be a code for some place on Earth or in the Earth or a continent that they don't put on a map or whatever. You know, I'm not saying this is what I believe, but I'm saying these are all options for what this all stuff could all mean. And so when you got people putting chips in people's brains, um, boy, like you want anything of Elon Musk's soul, like what his soul's had its hands on, to be a part of your physical being and it interact with your physical being. No, thank you. Um, and like, who would you want if say someone who's more loving, someone who's more loving wouldn't put a fucking chip in in your brain because we wouldn't focus on technology, thinking technology is a savior, ignoring the greatest technology of all, the human fucking body and the human soul. Like, why aren't we trying to understand that more and focus so much on external technology that's developed by humans that can't ever outgrow the capacity of understanding of harmony of the person that builds it? Um, we've never broke through the firmament. That might well be the case, my friend. AP, thank you for the money, man. Wow, that's very generous. What will I use it on? Food, organic food. I don't know. Going to my gym membership. Thanks for paying for my swimming sessions, my friend. Yeah. All right. Any other? Thanks for joining me, guys. Yeah, sorry about this. That it got split into two sessions. Again, technical difficulties. It's the reason I don't do it, and it's the thing I need to push through in order to do more of these live chats. I said in the beginning, my intention for this is to do one every season. I think it'd be nice to have a chat every season, talk about what's topical. Allows me to do something different from the old. You know, you make a YouTube video on a specific topic. This allows me just to kind of interact with you guys. You set me on a rant, and I can give you my perspective on something, just my opinion on whatever topic. And it's I think it's just a good chance. You know, I don't have a podcast at the moment. This is easier than setting all that up and having to try and talk on my own to camera. I'm grateful. It wouldn't happen without you guys. Thanks for joining. Where am I living now? I'm living in Wellington. Where is this George? Parkour George plays chess now. Derby George. Do I do any calisthenics now? You know what? Not really, man. I've not really been drawn. I go to the gym and I like barely want to do. I do a couple pull-ups and a couple dips every now and then, but I don't do much. A couple handstands. I like just swinging kettlebells and bouncing with my pulsers and swinging rope. There's something in swinging things, man. That's just in our DNA. Like swing it. Humans just like to swing shit, man. And then we make sports out of swinging shit. Swing a baseball bat, swing a tennis racket, swing a paddle racket, swing your leg at a ball. swinging stuff and spheres. Humans like spheres, don't they? They like spheres a lot. Most sports are developed around a sphere, but there's no spheres exist in nature. So it's a cool invention. Spheres are fucking cool. Swiss ball, stand on your Swiss ball. It's a big sphere. It's no one really uses sphere to be on top of. Normally we're controlling the sphere. How you stand on top of it is a different way to have a game with the sphere, with the ball. So I just like balls, bells, and ropes. Balls, bells, and ropes. Swing shit, pulsing, explosive reaction, rhythm and timing, and that calisthenics just isn't as fun for me. Parkour though is pretty decent. Yes, I thought it was you, George. Safe man. Yeah, had a good summer doing some parkour. Hard to get up and want to do it when it's cold though. All right, I think I might. I've not eaten this evening. Gonna have, I used to go through that like can't eat so many hours before bed, but there's so many different factors into how you feel when you wake up. You know, just not eating before bed for a few days might feel great, and then same old shit comes back, man. There's bigger stuff happening than what's in the physical realm. So yeah, gonna make some food. Time for a QQ, man. Shoot. Anyone? Last couple questions. Let's do this. Yes, Ollie. Thank you. Thoughts on fasting? Yep. Done it. Got the t-shirt. No, I don't know if you know. I'm not just. I feel like I sound like I'm showing off because I already talked about it. I did a intermittent fasting. Okay, cool. Intermittent fasting. I will say this, and I just said that about evening. It is if you're gonna do it, it's better to do intermittent fasting in the evening. If you're gonna do 16/8, eat in the morning. Get food in early. That's one thing I really liked from the silent retreat actually that I took away was they ate a big breakfast and then a medium dinner, a lunch, whichever you call it. And then the evening they had a small dinner or tea. And I took that away. I like that. In the evening, it was like soup, bit of bread, and some fruit. And in the morning was like big porridge, fruit, yogurt. Yeah. And then middle of the day was like a lovely curry. That was kind of medium as well, medium size. But then the evening was light. So and my last girlfriend Haley, she was a nutritionist. She was so clued up on nutrition, and she was so against intermittent fasting, especially for women. She's like, because so many people are in low level state of stress from just not eating, and they think it's easy. I think it's so easy to wake up and just not eat until like 2 in the afternoon, and then the later I get, the more I do end up. I'm doing this today. I just kind of tried to big it up, but I end up eating more later in the evening. But it is better overall when I'm in a better place, balance with it, to eat more of my calories earlier, eat within 30 minutes of waking up, even if it's just some fruit or something. Eat a big brunch, something like that. Eat at 4 o'clock. That's another thing. Where was we doing that? That was when I went to see Keegan Smith in Montenegro. We had one group meal at 4 o'clock every day, and that was good as well. So then you were eating your meal, and then it was like tapering off. So like I know I said, doesn't matter so much if you eat late. It does matter a bit. There's bigger issues to deal with, the emotional stuff. But if I was choosing the perfect day, I would eat my final big meal at like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then settle down. Yeah, yeah. So George, you're saying you do like a 12-7, something like that. That can be okay, man. My ex was very big on it for, especially for women, as with their hormones and stuff. Again, there's bigger stuff than the physical body, but getting some fruit in within 30 minutes of waking up and getting the metabolism started and going, rather than it just being in this like off stasis type thing. And then when you eat in a condensed period, depends on what you like as well. I'm someone who's definitely overeaten a lot in the past. If I do that intermittent fasting, I end up just eating so much in one small period that it just cancels everything out and makes my digestion just suffering, and I have to recover for the next 16 hours. And then, so yeah. But if you can eat, you know, neat portions and not overdo it, and that works for you, then it's fine. There's just bigger things than fasting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's easy. Most people just don't feel hungry in the morning. It's easy to go. But like if you're eating your last meal at 7 and you're not eating a huge meal at 9 o'clock at night, then yeah, that's not too bad. I think it's all right. But for the 10th time, there's much bigger stuff than food. Um, Mick, yeah, that's it. There's other things, but then when you focus on other things, like that's the other side of it, right? Is in my 20s, and you're learning about intermittent fasting, and you're learning about fasting and whole foods and all this stuff. The amount of guilt you can easily put on yourself and judgment when you are out of balance, and say you're just working your ass off on your job until 7 o'clock in the evening, and then you eat. And if you're going to add guilt to that eating at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, on top of already eating that late, that just makes things a whole lot worse. So that's kind of, I think I developed a little bit in that sense, was like not feeling guilty for these things, because it's so many, like, it's so easy to fall into that slope, right? Of like, and people on Instagram and YouTube promoting all these other diets probably don't realize they're doing it. They're not intentionally doing it, but they make you feel guilty for not eating their way, or and it's something that they're probably only shouting about it because they did it for 10 days and it felt great for them, and then they want to tell everyone else to do it, but they've not done it for years. Like, I've experimented for years with this stuff, and it's like, yeah, the guilt on top of guilt is the worst part of all of it. Like, and that's not to say address unloving self behavior, but like guilt on top is just not solving it either. So um yeah, so like Mick says, he's out of sync, he's got lots of focus on elsewhere. Okay, don't feel guilty for eating the way you do. Just the way we treat other people unlovingly, project emotions at them, is a bigger issue than what we're eating when we're eating. The way we treat ourselves emotionally is a bigger issue than what we're eating. So yeah, guilt is just adding stress. Yeah, it's and it doesn't solve it. It just is, actually makes us feel justified in it, because it's like, well, it's like a kind of a carried on this from my childhood. I can speak from that. Like, my mum, huge hugely judgmental, and projects shame at my sisters more than me, but me too. First comment she ever makes to us when she sees us is whether we've gained or lost weight. So it's like hypersensitive to that, and it's like what's in her heart matters, mum, but it doesn't matter to her. Um, so we make ourselves feel guilty. We judge ourselves because we learn it from childhood that, oh, if I'm judging myself, if my mum sees that I'm judging myself for my actions, then she doesn't have to project as much at me. So it's like that trained behavior that's just like the donkey that grew up tied to the stake, and he grew up with it, and then he's bigger than the stake and could just walk off, but he still is trapped by that small childhood. Not that the child was small thinking, but like, yeah, it was dangerous to be any other way when we were kids, and we've just still got that trapped in us as adults. All right, I think I'm going to wrap it there, though. I might do this. There's a chance I do this once a month. I enjoyed it. And it's not too hard for me to set up, and you guys make it a lot easier than me just having to ramble at people. So thanks so much for coming. Few housekeeping bits just to finish with. Yeah, we didn't talk about rope flow really, but I think that's fine. But I will just say this: BOA heavy rope. Some of you might have already got one. Beautiful bit of heavy rope, all made by me by hand. Ropes from factory in the UK. Is that going in the right box? Yeah. Final week of them being on sale. Then they're going into brumation. It's what snakes do. They don't hibernate. They brumate. So yeah, if you want one, weightherrope.com. Very good rope. There's videos. You can see me playing with it on this channel, on reels, all sorts. Not just saying that. Genuinely, I wouldn't have released it if I didn't think it would serve a place in people's rope locker. So I just say that. School of Biomechanics. if you want to learn more from me directly, I post a fraction of what I make on this YouTube. The rest of it goes into School of Biomechanics. I've got a new module coming up next month on WEC method. Going to be sharing some of the pulsing, some of that stuff on School of Biomechanics. Rope flow workshop in Cologne coming up. Date to be announced with Sinisha Alpaca Flow, if you know him, and Elias. Going to be collaborating on a in-person weekend workshop. I know it feels weird going into adverts after the deep chat we have, but yeah. Rose has got a boa. Big up Rose. Big up everyone in the chat. Any events in London? I will do. I haven't got any dates confirmed, but I know I need to plan something for London. Definitely. Thanks, Rapid VTEX, Ollie, Gary. Big love, everyone. Mick, Sab, everyone, Sam, everyone for your questions, for joining me, for patience around the technical issues. Fox, everyone who watched this after the fact, big love, everyone watching on YouTube after missed the live. Maybe make the next one. I'll post again. How did everyone see this? Did they just see it? Did they see me post on Instagram and come across on Instagram? Or did you see it in the community post or YouTube? YouTube's pretty good at recommending lives, hey? I've not really done it, but I see other people's lives get recommended. Facebook story, wow. I've just connected Facebook and Instagram, so I don't ever go on Facebook, but yeah. Popped up on YouTube. Nice. Good time. YouTube community. Just got a notification. Cool. Insta. All right. All of the different methods. All of them worked. I will do all of them next time. All right. Lots of love, guys. Have a great evening. Great autumn. Hope to see you next time. God bless. Peace out.